Yes. Yes. Very good. Oh, hello, and welcome back to Brick Girl. My name is Brittany, and today we are doing another video essay on death of everybody's hair. This pandemic is making a few of us quite adventurous when it comes to our hair. And it wasn't long ago that we witnessed Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn doing the same. I mentioned in my trailer reaction that cutting her pigtails was more significant than her breakup with the Joker. The way I see it, the initial understanding of a character cutting their hair in media is usually some sort of disguise or a reinvention of oneself. But just like in my previous video essay, Death of the Author, these moments can be interpreted in many different ways. So let's look at some examples where a character's haircut goes beyond the simple transformation. If we look at this scene in a historical context, we'll see that a samurai cutting off his top knot, or chonmage, is usually reserved for when he's leaving the life of samurai. But the chonmage wasn't just a simple part of the uniform, it was used to make the kabuto helmets more comfortable. And from there it became a sort of status symbol, something that people once respected. Apparently this hairdo was also outlawed in 1876, so that's a thing. But not for sumos, they're exempt. The samurai in the scene is young and nowhere near ready to leave this life behind. Having his hair cut without his consent and even worse by his enemy is something that is felt more deeply than a simple trim. This is the enemy taking from him his status, his identity, and all the hard work he did to become a samurai. From live action to animation, another great example of a significant haircut scene comes from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Uncle Iroh and Zuko are on the run from the Fire Nation, so this scene can simply be boiled down to their need of disguise. Right? Have a close look at all of the Fire Nation royals and even Avatar Roku. Do you see where they put their crowns? To even be able to wear a crown, the Fire Nation royalty would need to have enough hair to tie into a bun. Now compare Zuko's hair before banishment to after. No doubt some of his hair would have needed to be shaved to treat his wound, but I think a lot more was taken than necessary. So this is what I think. Aliens. Zuko is forever under the illusion that by capturing the Avatar, he can finally return home and return to his rightful place as heir to the Fire Nation throne. And with all the games that Ozai and Azula like to play, I think shaving your head is a sign of no return. So by leaving Zuko with just a ponytail, it gave him hope that he could return home and one day wear a crown again. But his hope rested on a near impossible goal. This is cruel hope. Which brings us back to the riverside. Have a look at the knife he is using. It was a gift from Uncle Iroh and it is inscribed with the words "Never give up without a fight." But here he is, essentially cutting off his crown and giving up the only sliver of hope he was given from the Fire Lord. The inscription on the dagger just adds salt to the wound. So yes, we, the audience, often do jump too quick to the conclusion that a haircut is just for disguise. But in Mulan, most of the analysis here really does fit the idea that it is for a disguise. However, we don't need to just stop our analysis with the story to find significance within these scenes. Sometimes you need to look at the production beyond the story. We see this in Disney's animated movie Mulan, where she cuts her hair to look like a man. This, my dudes, is a cultural inaccuracy. It is undoubtedly a powerful scene, but it will not be making it into the live-action remake. Where's that? Culturally, it's more a Western thing. Take it from the live-action producer Jason Reed. He said in an interview, cutting her hair is an anachronism.
This is an anachronism o'clock, what you got?
Chinese men in the 5th century wore their hair long, so for her to cut her hair off would make her look more like a woman. So through the eyes of a Western audience, Mulan cutting her hair to look like a man isn't actually a weird thing to do. However, it's culturally and historically wrong, which creates a whole other issue. I recommend watching Sideways' video essay on how Disney uses language to better understand Disney's history with other cultures. Although I'm not looking further into the symbolic reasonings behind Mulan cutting her hair, but I've included Mulan to represent the fact that actions and symbols do not always mean the same thing internationally and historically. I know it's a bit of a duh statement, But it's something we forget to apply sometimes to things we take for granted, and yet they can have great cultural differences. So where does the Western culture norm for cutting your hair come from? Let me introduce you to flappers.
I won't pretend to be an historian, but I believe flappers could be a large part of how the modern Western world sees hair. So, buckle up, because we're about to go into a history lesson.
Oh, I do so ever apologize for being late, but I can do the history. Are you ready?
Let's go back to the early age of suffragists. Women had been put to work during World War II, and now that it was over, they had a newfound taste of independence that they were not ready to let go of. The women broke cultural norms. They wore creeping hemlines, smoked cigarettes, and more importantly, cut their hair. A drastic fashion change compared to the previous generations.
Let's take a closer look at this. Women were gaining independence and freedom, and they were rebelling against the norm. Ladies, tell me this doesn't align with breakup haircuts. So where do we see this and more in media? Look no further than Harley freaking Quinn.
But as I've said, this is only the surface reading of Harley's actions when she cuts her hair. Take off your history goggles for a sec and think back to Batman the Animated Series. Her traditional attire, one she wore to try and please the Joker, included a jester cap. This cap is replaced by her pigtails in Suicide Squad and then the more recent Birds of Prey.
So when she cuts off her hair, it's not as simple as remodeling or rebelling. She's cutting off the baubles from her jester's hat. She's cutting off the costume that she wore to please the Joker, and in turn, she's cutting off her name. Without her cap and without her name, the identity of Harley Quinn is no more. In the end, it really is an identity struggle, but it's her choice. Both of which are themes stitched throughout the movie Birds of Prey.
If you go back further than the flappers, for Western society, you can find a biblical view on a woman's hair. But every woman who prays or prophesies with her head uncovered dishonors her head. It is the same as having her head shaved. If you read on, you'll see reference to a woman's hair being glory. Now cast this thinking back hundreds of years to the French Revolution.
Les Miserables is set in 18th century France, where Catholicism is the official religion. And in 2012, we were given the powerful screen adaptation with Anne Hathaway's character Fantine getting her head shaved.
This significant scene happens during the conflicting Lovely Lady's song. In a bid to get all the money she can, she cuts and sells her hair.
She finds herself there because of her poor status, and although she agrees to every step along the way, she's never given the opportunity to rescind. So not only is her hair a reflection of her status, but it's also symbolic of her free will.
At first glance, Evie from the live-action movie V for Vendetta fits these aspects too. Her status as a worker in television allowed her the privilege of beautiful curly hair. But once imprisoned, her free will was taken from her, her hair was shaved.
But you can also take this analysis and flip it on its head. The neo-fascist government that allowed her to have her hair wasn't even a free society. And even her imprisonment was a facade, but this gave her real freedom. So in this instance, her hair was used to blind her to a false sense of freedom, but also free her from societal restrictions. There is a lot to unpack here, and I've tried to skim over each scene rather quickly, but honestly, I could go into a whole video for each of these scenes. If you've made it this far, first of all, thank you so much, but also, tell me about a scene where someone cuts their hair and what you think it means. Don't get caught up with being right or being wrong, because at the end of the day, remember, the author is dead. It's up to you. If you want to see more video essays from me, I highly recommend you jump back and check out Death of the Author. I really love this concept because it gives audiences a lot of freedom when interpreting different media. And it's something you can use if you want to apply your new hair analysis skills.
But as a counter argument, Freud says that a cigar can sometimes just be a cigar.
Bloody Freud. With that said, thank you so much for watching. My name is Brittany and you have been watching Brick Girl. 1. Don't pick up the phone, you know he's only calling because he's drunk and alone. 2.